What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bingetown TV. My name is Jim, and I'm here with my co-hosts Luke and Kyle. And today we complete our coverage of one of the best television shows of 2024, Dark Matter. Today we cover Dark Matter Episode 9, the finale titled Entanglement. And before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of what Luke always does and shout out our listeners, our viewers. This has been unbelievable. We've done a lot of cool things as a podcast for the past 4 years, interviewing some of the stars of our favorite shows, screeners, almost 1 million downloads, all that kind of stuff. But we created this podcast for community because we love talking TV, movies. We will talk to anybody, and it has been amazing talking to all of you. Dark Matter has been, I would say, the most interactions we ever had on this podcast through YouTube, Twitter, X, if that's what you want to call it, and Discord. It has been amazing. You guys have been awesome. All we ask at this point is stay our friends. Okay. Dark Matter is over. If you're listening from the Dark Matter feed, that means that technically the Dark Matter feed will be frozen or dead for a little bit. Who knows if there's going to be another season? We may add another show to it, but jump on bingetowntv.com, jump on our main Bingetown feed, and come find us, come hang. We're covering House of the Dragon. We're covering The Boys. We will be covering The Bear. We just want to keep this going because it's been so fun. It's been amazing. And join our Discord. If you're watching on YouTube, all we ask is hit that subscribe button because then you'll be up to date. The Dark Matter feed being separate makes it a little bit tough because we want to keep you guys, but YouTube, it's all right there. So just hit that subscribe button and we'll be hanging for the rest of whatever, The Boys, House of the Dragon, etc. And the last thing I want to say before we get started is I was saying all the cool stuff we've done, but there's nothing cooler than having the creator, the showrunner, the writer of the book just give us some props. Say that he enjoys our work. Blake, we're honored. Congratulations on one of the best shows of 2024. Hopefully we get to talk to you about this show. We can't wait. And otherwise, I'm done talking, okay? I did a big intro there. Luke, Kyle, jump in. Let's get this real party started.
So, first of all, shout out to my Elden Lords out there that are taking on the Erd Tree because hell yeah, man. It is a time to be alive in the video game community right now. But more importantly, to Mr. Blake Crouch, just you are a legend, man. This show was so freaking good. It was so fun to cover, so fun to rewatch constantly, just so fun to theorize. Like, this has been one of my favorite experiences on the podcast, like Jimmy just laid out there. And I'm just going to say right now, I think the landing more than stuck the finale. I think that the finale more than stuck the landing. So I should say that. It was so good, man. Like, I just got finished watching it for the third time, and while I did get some things right, so pat myself on the back right there. The thing that's going to be very fun for us to talk about, we'll probably do this at the end, is if it's open-ended enough to actually continue on with the season 2. But I am sitting here begging Blake to leave it as a perfect limited series. We don't get enough of these type of TV shows in 2024, and it just doesn't need anymore. And I think just like Shogun, all it is doing is risking the product to kind of maybe go into places that's not going to totally satisfy us like it is right now. Like, I have almost everything that happened in the end and in this finale just worked for me. It had the right build up, it had the right payoff, it had the emotional impact, the acting was incredible, the writing was there. I'm sure there's some random sci-fi plot holes that we can't even comprehend because we don't know quantum physics, but it all worked for me as a layman in the physics arena. This was so freaking fun. And one of the best things about Dark Matter is, as we've been saying it through the podcast, it didn't really start going as viral as it deserves to be until the second half. And now even on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, like, the episodes are picking up significantly in terms of how they're rated. Like, the last 3, not including the finale, because the finale hasn't been released yet. So episodes 6, 7, 8 are 8.1, 8.6, and 8.9 on IMDb. And an 8.9 episode is just an all-timer. Like, that's leading into the finale, it's coming off the highest point it's been at. So I'm really hoping that the finale lands with people. And if people thought that Jupiter, being episode 8, was the best of the season so far, I can't see how you don't say the finale's better, because it's really just a part 1, part 2 continuation of the OG universe all coming together, figuring out what to do with Evil Jay, figuring out what to do with all these other Jasons, and then coming to a conclusion and getting to see Jimmy Simpson again. So, like, it was perfect. It was like so freaking good. I have a million things I want to say. I kind of want to shut up so we could save it for some organic conversation throughout the coverage. So I will leave it at that. Just know that this was a damn near perfect limited series, Blake.
Yeah, my take will be, I'll keep it short and sweet, and just, there are, let's say, maybe limited opportunities for pure joy and community out there, and watching a television show week by week along with like your friends and the internet and a community of people that you can interact with and bounce theories off of and all that type of stuff is, for me, one of those like great small joys in life. And I think Dark Matter completely exceeded all of the expectations that we had going into it. We like saw the trailer. I'm like, okay, this is like right up our alley, sci-fi show. We'll see how this goes. Based off a book. We like all of these things. I don't think we could have imagined that we would have liked this show as much as we have. And that's not to say that we thought it was going to be bad, but it's just been so much fun, man. I tell everyone I know to watch. My sister's watching, and she's, you know, like, can't wait to watch the finale. And it's just so much fun to just be able to have this in your life. And for me, the top of that tier is always going to be like Game of Thrones shows, like House of the Dragon's coming out right now, and that's just sitting down and watching that episode with the world on Sundays is so much fun. But doing it on Wednesdays and seeing the reaction to Dark Matter episodes has been right up there as well. So it's just a blast.
I actually, now that you're saying that, like, you tell everybody to watch, I literally just watched the pilot again with my girlfriend just to get her into the show, and she loved it. So it's like I'm already back at the beginning right after watching the finale. So it was a cool experience getting to really watch it again right away. So
yeah, good times. So we are going to classic style here. We'll break down this episode. We're going to take it scene by scene. We will, though, we're going to break out the Scar J and Evil J stuff. We'll talk about that at the top, and then we'll get into OG Jason and all of those scenes, because then they flow pretty well chronologically after that. So this initial stuff is Scar J is who kind of comes in and actually finds Evil J, Peter Griffined, at the bottom of the basement stairs after Daniela pushed him down there. Wants some answers from him, kind of kicks his ass a little bit. And then the next thing included in this conversation is going to be the next day, 2 days later, whatever it ends up being, when he's trying to track OG Jason and Daniela. So he shows Evil J the chat group. They talk about Evil Daniela. They talk about Amanda. And honestly, we get, let's say, introspection. We get a level of remorse from Evil J that maybe I wasn't expecting, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, for a show that is about different universes and like superposition, quantum physics, all this, like, I don't know how the fact that Evil J getting a sort of redemption and Scar J becoming the main bad guy in the finale is like the most surprising thing to me, because that just, I was rooting for Scar J last episode. I think I'm pretty sure I said I would have been happy if he ended up with Daniela, which hell no.
Yeah,
but
we were borderline Cool J on him. He was almost Cool J.
He's one of the best things that was added to this show late in the game, because like I said, none of us predicted it. We didn't have any conversations about how he's going to be the true final boss. And I just think that Jason, he was a good mixture to add. And especially with Evil J, who's at the bottom of the basement, like just at his low point, like he lost the family, all these things, and it just kind of all piled up together where he's kind of pathetic now, which kind of works in a satisfying way as well. And now we can focus on Scar J being like the guy that's going to actually be the adversary to finish off the show. But there's going to be a lot of nicknames this episode for those listeners, I'm sure. Like there's a lot of Jason, so just bear with us if we're mixing anybody up, because we're really just excited just talking through it all. So, but right now we're sticking with the ones we know.
Yeah, and big part of a reason why we have nicknames instead of using the Jason 1, 2, 6, 13 stuff is that the audio description, the, what are they called? Subtitles is what they're called. Don't have them for us on the screeners. So the way that we watch the show doesn't give that to us. So we've had more fun making up the nicknames. I love them. They have, you know, a little bit of pizzazz and personality. So I enjoy that.
Jimmy, before you jump in, did you guys also, was it the screeners that had a weird opening where it felt like it just started without like an, you know what I mean? Maybe that was a screener thing, but that was a weird editing decision if that wasn't the case, but who knows?
I rewinded like 3 times to make sure that I wasn't missing the beginning, but I mean, it's a jarring, just like Scar J right in Evil J's face, which is fine. I just was like, did I miss something? But
same.
I'm a little disappointed, guys, and I need to talk about this. Something was ruined for us in this episode. Something very, very important, was ruined for us.
Are you gonna say the T word?
What's the T word?
Trailer.
No.
Okay. Okay. I'm
I
just
would
making
never
sure.
do that. I would never do that. I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson.
Okay. Just double checking.
ScarJ has a backstory. They
Yes.
gave ScarJ a backstory, and
Yes.
it's not the werewolf. But let me just say, okay, when he starts giving his story and he says, I opened the door and it was a forest, I was like,
I
no freaking
Yeah.
way.
I literally sat up so straight. You know that meme where it's like the gamer chair where you're lounging and then you're on your like hands
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
knees forward? That was me when I was like, no way.
Oh my
Imagine if I got
gosh.
that right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was waiting
Close
for him to
enough.
be like, there's a forest and there's this beast and it's, oh, I was ready. And then,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But it's still cool to get a backstory. There's
Mhm.
hundreds of other J's. One of them threw down with that werewolf. Okay. So otherwise, I agree with everything you guys were saying when it comes to Scar J versus Evil J. I do like the direction that they started to go with Evil J in this episode, starting from the very beginning, just because, like you were saying, Luke, he's defeated, and deep down, even though you got to go pretty deep, he's still Jason, right? So there's still a part of him that's going to get to the point that he got to in this episode, which does make sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. I was a little worried at the start of the episode, like you guys are mentioning, where we get the kind of card that was cold and hard combined right there. The hard open of him just kind of beating up Evil J. And I was thinking, okay, Scar J obviously has the same, he's entitled to the same level of anger, and
Right.
him killing Evil J would be just as earned as OG Jason, our boy Jason, the Jason. But I was like, no way.
Yeah,
Like
I
if
agree.
I was gonna be a little upset personally
There
if
was a lot of
Scar
punches,
J,
man. That was like
yeah,
brain
was gonna
damage
be
for
the one
sure.
to take him out. So I'm glad that that's not the way that that went, which
I
was
agree with
good.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
agree with that.
I like you bouncing off of what you just said, Jimmy. It was nice that they had this conversation. I don't think OG Jason and Evil J could have really had this conversation, because I don't know if OG Jason would be someone to tie up Evil J to the banister and things
Right,
like
right,
that. But
right.
like being able to tell him about, Evil Daniela, and just seeing the look on Evil J's face when he's like, oh my God, I got her killed and all that stuff. And just the
Mhm.
last line of the scene being, I thought that you would love my life. Because we know that's kind of been the motivation, but he's always been Evil J to us. But
Mhm.
it's just so interesting that from his perspective, he really, truly, deeply believed that he was helping the other Jasons out. He
Mhm.
thought he was providing them this outlet of this life, this escape to this better life. And it just completely did not work out like that. Well, because we know he
Mhm.
has no idea the concept of strengthening a relationship through hardship.
And
But
one of the things that Scar J shows Evil J here is the message board, and let's save a lot of that conversation for
yeah,
the other box, because that's
Right.
one of my favorite concepts that they just threw at us in this entire
yeah,
series. Like I thought that was amazing, and it's even funnier the meta joke of the names on the message boards like Jason 32 or Jason
yeah,
27.
Yeah.
So like that's a really cool moment. But it was such a payoff seeing the weight of all of Evil J's mistakes and decisions causing all this chaos and negativity that like he could have been done here and I would have been okay. Like get the beating, have this conversation, and then I would have been okay. But then they keep adding on to it, and like I do like where this ends up leading in the other buckets. But for here, it was amazing, like seeing that acting from Joel. Like we've been saying
yeah.
it, like he's an A-lister. He is so good, man. He's a great person to lead this show, and this was probably like I know we've been saying this too, but like this is a dream opportunity for an actor getting to play every single emotion, every single
Yeah.
side, every single
Yeah.
villain. It's
Yeah.
just so cool. So yeah.
That is really cool. Yeah. I liked all the characterization we get of Scar J too here. It's just, I loved the cut where he's kind of just eating the cereal. It's like a
Mhm.
chill morning, and he's like, okay, looking at the bank accounts, and he's trying to think through what they would be. And then he just turns and asks, like, we don't even know Evil J's there. And he's just like, what do
Yeah.
you think, or whatever. And then it just cuts to him duct taped, bloodied
Mhm.
up on the banister. And it was like, oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. But it, for me, was a big, let's say, lesson takeaway that I had from these scenes with Scar J was kind of what I believe I mentioned at the end of last episode. Of we had the conversation of what is it going to be that's going to convince Daniela that the OG Jason is her Jason. Like, how does she
Mhm.
know? Why is she so comfortable? And I think it's just this: he is still the guy who left. He is the guy who got kidnapped. He's the closest one to the version of the Jason that left.
Yes.
ScarJ is just too far gone. He's been through too many things. It's just his
Yeah.
experiences have changed him too far beyond the Jason that Daniela loves. And this was the perfect kind of show of that he's willing to go to these insane lengths. So a little bit
Whipping out the knife. He's got the gun later. He's
yeah. I mean, we can go right into the Blair stuff too if you want, because this was
yeah, that was intense. But I do want to bring up how he brings up Amanda, because that gut wrenching, just being like, she would have done anything for you, man, anything, and you screwed her. You sandbagged her. You don't give a shit about her. You left her. You know, when he explains how she died, it took 2 days to watch her die.
unbelievable.
And again, you can see Evil J, like the pain in his face. It's, you know, but he's still Evil J, man. He's still gonna be Evil J for me.
ScarJ also has the necklace remembrance of Amanda, which is a cool touch. I just like any way to differentiate the Jasons. It's just an interesting way to write the show.
Yeah, so this next small little bucket we'll discuss is just the Blair stuff. I was worried about Blair here. I don't think they made it super clear last episode that they had Blair's car. So I didn't really catch that they had Blair's car last episode.
Yeah, I didn't either.
At any point. I don't know if we were maybe supposed to. Certainly went over my head. So this was like a bit of a surprise plot thread in this episode that I really wasn't anticipating at all. I didn't think Blair would be involved like this, but intense scenes. Because we know how far ScarJ will go. They've just told us, they kind of taught us this. So I was like, is he gonna kill Blair? Like, that would be wild.
Yeah.
But she kind of turns the tables on him. And I kind of have a question of where it truly leaves ScarJ after this scene, but maybe we can just use that as our wrap up at the end.
Yeah, because she steals the gun from him and maces him at the end, right? And then he's aware that her car can be tracked. But I agree. I felt like that was weird. Did we miss? Is that what your question was going to be?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I feel like we see him at the end.
Yeah, we did.
I'm kind of questioning it because when I watched it, it didn't look exactly like him. So I was like, there's no way he like got off screened in the sense that he just tied up like Evil J was tied up.
It's a weird thing because she has the gun to both of them, and she obviously chooses to let Evil J find her car, right? So did they trick her and actually both get away? I mean, Evil J says, you know, I tracked the car, Blair helped me, and they started to follow me based on my car. So I don't know. And it's a little weird how they both get out of that predicament.
The best way to rationalize it is that it's so easy for Blair to pick Evil J as the good one because of the interaction that we get to see in this scene. So just simply letting him go, and then the other Jason's tracking Evil J, and then using the form, ScarJ could have figured it out. But like, again, I don't know. Maybe Blair felt weird about calling the cops on a clone that she's looking at, like, and it's her best friend's husband. So like that got weird, and we just got to assume maybe something was cut, like a scene could have been cut there. But
exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah,
it's not like plot breaking. It just is a weird editing decision.
I can see in my head a scenario where they're both talking to Blair and they just explain the situation, and as crazy as it is, she may just decide, all right, Evil J, do what you got to do. You know, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's just a surreal scenario. You're seeing two Jasons and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I think that this is probably where the talent show came in, but they cut the talent show out.
So they both did a talent show, and Evil J won. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, or maybe they were both so good that she was like, "Okay, fine,
you can both go."
You both can go. That was pretty sick.
They could have did a duet or something.
That would be wild. They little cane and top hats. They were doing a little show dance. That would be funny.
Like Stewie and damn it, what's the girl's name from Early Family Guy when they have their
damn. Where's Paul and Dave when you need them?
Yeah,
like,
right.
I can picture her in my head.
Me too. Yeah. I can even sing the song, but I'm not going to.
Oh, come on, baby. Come on. All right. So I believe that'll do it for our ScarJ Evil J solo bucket. We'll wrap back around. They'll join the team at the end, which will be nice to see them. But before we do that, we're back to OG Jason and the squad. I had this first group of scenes just kind of driving in the car in night one at this place. So they're getting all
Olivia.
the
Olivia, yes, it is.
okay, I was like, wait, Olivia. All right. They're getting all the texts in the car. Charlie sends him to his friend's house. They kind of have all these kind of conversations. OG Jason and Daniela have a conversation, and then we have him at his first night watch shift, which is where he discovers the chat room. So I would say lots of things to talk about here. Really like the conversation OG Jason and Daniela had quickly here on the bed. And like Luke said, the chat room was out of left field. Loved every second of it.
Yeah, yeah. Just when they're in the car and Daniela and Charlie are both getting all these text messages. That's not your dad. The person you're in the car with is not your real dad. Come to me. And it's just like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom. Like text, all very, very similar. Some of them exactly the same. I mean, Daniela may be a little bit more prepared because she had the initial conversation with OGJ. And, obviously Charlie gets an explanation, but, being younger, he's probably like majorly losing his mind. I mean, he kind of just goes like, Mom, and then he shows the phone. It's just crazy.
Yeah, Charlie's a pretty chill guy. He goes with the flow this whole episode. Like
Yeah.
a lot of like fighting back. But I was thinking this whole time, especially through the first night, being Daniela or Charlie, I am not being alone in the room with this Jason. I don't care if we're agreeing that this is our guy. Like, I am still freaked out. Like, there's no way that I'm sleeping in a bed with this guy yet, like without like more trust being built or something. So that was my criticism of all this, where it felt like they just accepted it. Because like you're saying, the text message thing is crazy. The car crash with other Jasons or other dads like is crazy. And they're just having to get over it. Like your mind's not built to deal with that psychological issue. So the fact that they got over it was a little weird, but it all makes sense. Like he has shown nothing but empathy towards them and like caring about what is right for them and their safety and all that. But that's all I have to say on that piece. I could talk forever about the welcome home Jason thing. Well, is that what it was? Is that what it was called or something like that? That was like the email that he clicked in that got him to the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It said
Yeah.
the entanglement folder, and then, welcome
Right.
home,
And
Jason. Yeah.
at the time when he logs in, there's like over 100 Jasons in there. So you got it. So like that almost cleans up some of our issues that we brought up earlier, where we were saying there better be hundreds, like at
Right,
the
not
very
6,
least.
not 7.
Not
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
So, and I'm sure like you can assume that there's hundreds more that didn't even make into the chat room or weren't online at the time. So, and if you just scroll through, it's really funny to just
So
read some of the
good.
messages.
Yeah,
Some people,
I paused. I read them
yeah,
all.
yeah.
and it makes so much sense that some are just literally repeat copy and paste comments because of half of them are mostly
Yeah.
the same people thinking the same things. And it's like, I don't remember if I'm jumping ahead right now, but it was freaking hilarious when he gets a DM saying you want to team up
Yeah.
and kill the other Jasons, and he gets 3 DMs like right
just
away.
boop,
It's just
all the same one.
I
Yeah.
was just cracking up and loving every part of that. Like the one guy takes a selfie video and he says like, none of you have been through what I've been through. Like I deserve her and all this stuff. It's just, you could write seasons on all of those characters' journeys
Yeah.
and it
Oh,
would
yeah,
be
you could.
compelling. They are main characters of their story. And at one point they were OG Jason. It's just so weird to think about because at this point we're so desensitized to them where one gets shot and like we don't even care. But at the same
Yep.
time, like they 99% of their life was the same that
guy.
of our guy that we're riding for. So it just is all coming together in a way that I'm happy was addressed like this. And the chat room was just like if we were doing MVP LVPs for this episode, I would have made the chat room my MVP because it was just such an interesting idea and it was so funny to read through.
The shared custody.
That was so
Daniela
funny.
and
The
Charlie.
lottery
Wow.
system,
You know,
like all of
that
it.
Jason's been through some shit. He's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
not the regular Jason, OG Jason.
Yeah.
If he's saying let's get shared custody, that sounds more
Right.
like Evil Jay. I have plenty to talk about in a certain vacuum when it comes to how everything turned out and all the Jasons and this and that, and I'll save a lot of that for the end. But I do want to talk about, just because we're bringing it up with, how did Daniela and Charlie decide to be okay with this Jason? And Kyle, you brought up in the intro, you brought it up perfectly last episode. I actually watched this episode and immediately was like, really, I was a little disappointed at first, thinking like, really, are we going to just have it be that Daniela chooses one and that's it? Like, but then when you think about it, like actually think about it, I think it's genius because, like you said, Kyle, OG Jason stayed as true to Daniela's Jason as we could have seen. All of these Jasons, it's true that she could have had another one come to her first, and if he was close enough to her Jason, she could have chosen that Jason. But the fact that all of these Jasons decide in the end to allow this, quote unquote, and let their family be safe, it's perfect because if they're all versions of our OG Jason, deep down, all they want is to care for and love and for their family to be safe, right? It's going to be very painful. And obviously, some of the Jasons are like, what the hell, man? Because they've been through some shit and they're getting possessive. But it all starts to make sense to that. And Daniela choosing a Jason and Charlie choosing a Jason, it's how it needed to be. Because it's one of those things where I was saying, how is it not going to be super messy? How is it not going to be ridiculous where Daniela and Charlie at all times for the rest of their life are saying, did I pick the right Jason? But Daniela sees this Jason. He may technically not be. I mean, he is, but he could be any Jason.
Yeah.
But I'm saying to her, it's her Jason. They all went on the journey, and you just have to decide, this is the Jason I chose. This is the Jason that I've chosen because he, whether it's got to me first or not, but he's the one that reminds me of the husband that was taken.
Yeah.
And just something to jump off that point is how you were saying basically the other Jasons need to be okay with this, like deep down,
Right.
because anybody that wouldn't be okay with this is somebody she wouldn't pick.
Right.
And so they're literally the problems. Like those are the ones that we have to actually kill or take care of or just leave the universe, which is what we ended up taking that route. But Daniela has a great line in this grouping of scenes where she's just reflecting on the whole situation the first night when they're in the bedroom, and she says they are all home too. And that line hits, man. That line hits because like I'm obsessed with the idea that these guys are all the main character too. And it just, we're so biased, and I love being biased in TV shows, so don't get me wrong, but it's just crazy that we shouldn't be rooting for that. Like objectively, take all of the emotions out. We really there's no reason we should be rooting for this Jason besides that he got there first, came up with a genius plan in the police station, and then has the Jupiter connection with her with the password. Like all that just really worked out for our guy, and just amazing. I'll say that 100 more times this episode.
Yeah. I even really like the line right before that, but they're all home too, where she says, I want it to be just as simple as your home. And that's just, I don't know, that felt like a very nice, like human moment where, like you're saying, Luke, earlier, your brain isn't built to deal with something like this. So I liked how honest, vulnerable that was and how realistic that was, where it's just, I want this to just be as simple as your home, but we have hundreds of Jasons of yous out there. And what the heck are we going to do? Even when they get into like later on and Charlie's like, what's the plan? They're like, we really don't have one right now. Because again, like, how do you plan for a situation like this?
Right.
All right. And if you can hear an angry little man in the background barking, that's because I am dog sitting right now. And he's not very happy about not being able to play with me currently. But duty calls. Dark matter needs to be broken down, and we're here for it. So the last thing I want to say about these scenes is, Luke, when you were saying that the Jasons that wouldn't be willing to just accept Daniela's choice are just immediately disqualified. I like how they're basically calling them the Rambos in the chat, like the very violent ones who are willing to kill all the other Jasons. They're just referring to them as the Rambos, which really makes me laugh.
So and then good, man.
Another thing that was funny but also kind of upsetting but classic TV is him heading outside. He just like walks around the property and it's just like, brother, first of all, stay in the goddamn house. You don't have a gun. And then he just sits down at the chair by the glass door. Adam's like, he's gonna fall asleep. Like he's totally just gonna fall asleep. And then that transition just pretty perfectly into our next buckets of scenes here, where it's just he falls asleep, obviously, wakes up, and then has this conversation with Daniela on the beach, which I loved. And then I'm also gonna bring in the like pancakes and tea that they have with when Charlie makes the pancakes, and they kind of continue talking about the craziness that is their situation.
This conversation was both amazing and a tease a little bit, because I love when characters get all meta and act as the audience and talk through these weird sci-fi things where he's actually explaining some of the other universes that he saw.
Right.
Like, why is Daniela not being like, dude, tell me everything you freaking saw in the entire world? Like, I want to see everything. Because that's just a fan reaction, right? So, but we
Right.
did get a little bit of it here, specifically talking about the evil universe, Evil Jay's universe, and Daniela. So all that was great. They talk about the chat room. Again, just good conversations here. But the one thing that like really stuck out to me was how OG Jason is still trying to just basically just fall on the sword for this is his fault. The reason
Right.
that this all started is because his internal desires for the path untaken caused Evil Jay to live this life that eventually made him come here. And you can't blame yourself for that. And
Nah.
thankfully,
Wild.
Daniela she's incredibly reasonable this whole episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
very
awesome.
just yeah, it's amazing. Like, yeah, so it was good having her be the one to take that burden off him and say, like, this is not your fault. Like, you didn't actually cause all this. So it's just great conversation. And I'm just gonna throw my last thought out there about the pancake scene, which they talk about Max for a second. And
Mhm.
and because of how the dialogue was written, they talk about Max, and then OG Jason said, well, he's a dick. I don't know. Was he referring to Max there, or was he referring
No,
to,
no, no.
because I thought he
because he
was
had that
saying that because
interaction.
of that interaction, which was like a funny little moment.
That's
where
funny.
he's like, oh, like Max. And he's like, well,
I
he's a
met
dick.
your
And,
brother.
like,
He's
he
a
just,
dick.
yeah, exactly. I thought that was what it was. And I watched it twice, like, or I've seen the episode 3 times. And you can't say that he's not, he could be talking about Max, like in the way that it's saying. And Max was a little bit of a dick. So,
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I didn't take it like that at all. Obviously, I'm guessing Kyle too for his reaction. But the crazy thing about this whole scenario, while I do really love the fact that it's all about Daniela chose, right? She chose this Jason, and that's just how it needs to be. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy. I would sit down though, if I was Daniela, if I was Charlie, and I would be like, here's a test. And I would be like, answer these mother trucking questions right now. And you are going to get them all right, or we're out. Right. But I was actually hoping when it came to the Max conversation, I thought it was hilarious that he just said, like, Evil Jay's a dick. Like, to me, that was how I took it. Like, he said he missed the remembrance, Evil Jay's a dick.
it could be either one.
So I actually was hoping that he was going to get a little deeper there and be like, I quote unquote celebrate, if that's it's not the right way to say it, but you know what I mean. I remembered from the box. You don't have to tell me you're with Amanda, but I remembered Max and I knew it was that day. And I told the story to myself, like something like that, just to be like, just really, really just like saying, like, yo, I'm me. Okay. I am OG Jason. You don't have to worry.
Yeah,
But
Max
either
didn't get
way,
enough dialogue. I agree. Like, in
yeah.
general.
But either way, I took it like he was saying Evil Jay's a dick. And I mean, I think we're all agreeing that Evil Jay's a dick. So
Yeah, I agree with that. My favorite part of these scenes is definitely Daniela and Jason having this conversation on the beach. She's being honest to a point because she's obviously still processing everything. There's some things that she probably doesn't want to think about, doesn't want to talk about right now. But I think in particular was really interested in this idea of throughout this whole season of Jason having this kind of rose-colored glasses version of their relationship and maybe wasn't actually understanding the reality of where they were at, of how maybe they've drifted apart slightly over time. And I'm glad that they had this conversation. Maybe selfishly, I wanted more. But when she says, honestly, like, I liked it at the start, like we had gone back to the start of our relationship. I really enjoyed it. Excuse me, as I'm about to cough out a
Oh my god! Holy shit! Would you
And
do,
we're back.
swallow some? What just happened?
It was like a little bit of fur ball back there is what it felt like. So that's all I want to say right now is what I'll say about the cough.
If that video cut happens, it's just gonna be Kyle, his eyes like watering.
Okay. And but I was a little bit maybe not shocked, but when he says, I'll be honest, I had thoughts too over time, not constant, but every now and again it popped up of the what if type of thing. So I'm just glad that they had this honest conversation about their relationship. My headcanon will be that they'll continue to have that conversation as they live their new life and travel more. But I think I selfishly maybe wanted it a little bit more, but I'm really glad that they were able to have this conversation. And then they have another one too in bed, which was nice as well. But I'm just glad that I was shocked of as this episode was going on of like, are we really like they're on like vacation right now in this house?
Yeah.
Like, when is
Yeah.
this shoe gonna drop? Like, this is all these scenes are very lethargic. Like, I'm feeling kind of good about this, and it's like, when is this gonna happen? But I was certainly not complaining.
Evil Jay kind of says it at the end, and it's weird to think like this, but the relationship's going to be stronger after this whole thing. A lot stronger.
Yeah.
As much as it sucked. The whole
Undeniably.
journey.
Yeah. Undeniably. And part of that is, let's get into these next scenes here. So this is kind of Jason. It's the night after that the beach talk and the pancakes and everything. So they're having dinner, it seems, because they're drinking wine.
Yeah.
And this is Jason explaining the multiverse to them. He uses the metaphor of the fish in the lake. Then we're dancing, to Sparks by Coldplay, which is a fantastic song. The music choices in this show have been great. And Daniela logs onto the chat board, and this group of scenes ending with them bang-a-langing and then having a nice little pillow talk about why she kind of has chosen him and things like that.
I didn't know how she was going to react when she actually jumped into the message board, but the fact that she just told them all, like, I made my choice, that was a good way to end that.
My question on that is, did she send a video message? Because if it just came a chat from Jason71 and was like, hey, it's Daniela, like, I'd choose Jason71. You guys can talk. Like, I don't think any of the other ones would be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I believe that. Like, I feel like it would have had to have been a video recording of, like, obviously, I'm Daniela. Like, I'd pick this guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna just headcanon that's what she did. That kind of stuff you can headcanon yourself and be happy with it. I don't need to dwell too much on that. But yeah, that's hilarious if she just was like, "Hey, I'm Daniela and I picked Jason." They're like, "Yeah, right, dude. Good try."
They all the Rambos would definitely not be.
Yeah, the Rambos are like, "We're coming to you. We're coming for you right now, Jason."
The amount of DM she would have gotten after that message, regardless, was probably insane. She definitely had to shut the laptop.
But again, you brought up how she's been very calm, cool, and collected as much as you can be and rational throughout this whole scenario. And I was actually waiting for that chat to freak her out before we get the reveal that she said I chose. I thought that, because we talked about how the pacing of this season was boom, 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 very quick, and questions answered, blah, blah, blah. Like, this episode was pretty slow pacing, right? We're waiting for a big climax, and I didn't know what the climax was going to be. And honestly, we said this all season, and I said it last episode, I have no idea how this was going to end. I could not figure out what was going to happen, right? And I already said it earlier, it's genius how he ended up making it happen, but I couldn't figure it out. So I was like, is she just going to like freak out? Is this not going to be a happy ending? Like, is this going to have her come to OGJ and say, like, this is just too crazy? Like, I don't know what's going on here. There's 500 Jasons trying to find me right now.
Never wavered from the happy ending.
Yeah, you never did, dude.
That's true.
Yeah.
You did not. I like one small moment of here. It's really not important, but it made me chuckle. Is they're having this conversation about the multiverse, and he's kind of blowing their minds a little bit, and he's looking longingly into Daniela's eyes as he says it, and Charlie kind of just like gets up from the table and just, like,
he's like,
flips
okay,
into the living room. Yeah, he was like, okay, this looks like a romantic moment. Let me just
I'm
get
gonna
out of here.
excuse myself here.
Yeah, I just love that. I thought that was so funny that went on in the background. But and we get another good question here, Luke. You're saying almost at this meta level where she's like, were you tempted to stay anywhere? That would be one of the first questions you would want to ask.
Yeah.
And he kind of, he says, yeah, there was a world I could have been happy. I almost lost hope of finding my way home. And then after they have sexual relations, let's say, they have this good conversation where I love how she says, do you remember when we first met? And he just kind of chuckles, and she doesn't know the the significance of that chuckle, but for me, that's because that's literally the exact way that he used to get back to this world, was remembering the day that they met, the time that they met. So that was good. I like that little subtle. It didn't need to be, he didn't need to say that to her. The chuckle was enough for me. And I thought that was really well done. But then, like we're saying, all about this, how does she know? How could she just pick him? And it just seems to be that she just has this feeling. And she says, like, that day when they first met could have been anyone, but it was you. And out of all of them being Jason's, again, it was you. It just seems to be that something she has this feeling about. And while, yeah, maybe that's like corny or cliche, like, I think it's, what is even a better answer? I mean, if Daniela has the feeling and she feels safe and comfortable and she knows better than we do. She knows better than anyone would. So that was enough for me. I think this conversation at first, I was like, okay, this is how it's going to go down. Like, we're just going to choose like this. But I think this conversation was really the positively nail in the coffin when I was like, okay, I'm behind this. I'm on board. Like this.
There's just no way that you can, you have to just choose. There's no way, when it comes to everything from the moment that they met for the first time again, when he explains everything, to the point where you just said, Kyle, where you think that's the point where she decided, like, you're having all these conversations, especially in the kitchen. We didn't really bring it up fully, but he's like saying, how's the girl doing? And Charlie's like, she's going out with this guy. And he's like, we're not doing great here. How's the art show that you wanted to get? She's like, oh, someone else got it. He's like, damn, we're not doing, I'm joking about a test. If you're having these conversations, it feels like you're back at home. That's as close as you can get. And you just have to choose at that point.
Yeah. And I like the way you just said that too, because of what she had said that we called out, where she said, I want it to just be as simple as your home.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I think, she really felt, there was a lot of facial acting by Jennifer Connelly that was fantastic, of her just like observing Charlie and Jason interacting.
Yes.
And I think that as well was a big factor for her, where it's like, this is the guy, like it's our guy.
I mean, we didn't even bring up the fact that he tells OG Jason, that evil Jay, like, you didn't even know how to use an EpiPen. Like, you freaking gave me ice cream with nuts, and he's like, oh, what? I did? Like that kind of, it's just, again, it's a test, but it's not a test.
Thank you for bringing up the Brooke thing. So Luke, how do you feel about that being the conclusion?
The closure?
The Brooke conversation. We talked about it. We were like, I don't know where it's gonna go. So
I mean, it's irrelevant. He's literally gonna go try and hook up with a different Brooke now, probably.
That's so fair. Maybe that's what he was thinking. That's what he used for the door. It's like single Brooke that's into me.
He drove into a single. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's actually really cool.
I think that, again, it's just another check of a conversation that you can have with your OG dad. It's the story starts with you talking to OG Jason about Brooke and about how you want to go out with her, and he gives his original advice. And then Evil Jay, totally the opposite kind of advice. Obviously he's very upset after that kind of thing happens, where she picks the other guy, and there goes the ice cream, and it's just shit's hitting the fan. And then being able to go back, just a casual conversation, whether, that Brooke plot line is not important, but being able to have that conversation again with your OG dad and being like, yeah, she went with the other guy. And he's like, sorry, son. That kind of thing. It's kind of nice.
And just to defend my point from earlier, after he says that, he says, and then he even missed the time remembrance for Max. And then he goes, well, he's a dick. So that's why, it could have been.
Dude.
He
Get off
been,
that.
Max is a dick. Like, who cares if he misses it? Like,
not believe that that's how you interpret it.
I needed to defend it because the context of how he says it came to me as Jimmy was going through that again. So I was like, that's why, because it can be isolated to imply that Max is a dick, and he is. So
actually,
whatever.
This is a cool segue though, Luke, because this show just makes you think so much. Everything about it makes you think so much. And there's so many things that we can talk about, and we can do a 3-hour podcast. But one of the major things that I was thinking about when it comes to Max, how much do you actually want to tell Daniela and Charlie? Do you actually want to say, like, guys, I met your brother. He was doing well. He looks just like you. Obviously, your twin.
He's failing math class, bro.
Yeah, right. But well. like is it? Yeah, he's doing. Yeah, he's not doing great in school, but he looks good. But I mean, At what point do you say, like, all right, certain things you just don't, you're not going to tell, it's not worth it, or is it worth it? That kind of stuff. Like, is it comforting, or is it like, maybe I shouldn't tell them?
I, as a sci-fi fan, would say, "Dad, tell me it all." But
Yeah,
that's
right.
just me. So.
Yeah, that's a
But
good
you're right.
point.
You're making good points. Like realistically, he's gonna keep especially anything Amanda related. He's gonna keep to himself. There's nothing that could probably pry the hotel room nights that he spent together with her out of him, which is fine, which is good. That's a good thing to
Yeah.
step away from. But
Right when
yeah, you're
Daniela
right.
said, "I want it to be as simple as your home," and he was like, "Cool, that
Yeah,
Yeah,
works."
right.
That
moving
works for
on.
me. Yeah, that works for me. The last
Yep.
thing I'll say about these scenes that'll bring us into our kind of like action bucket that we were waiting this entire episode of like, okay, when's it gonna happen? Okay, when's it gonna happen? Okay, when's it gonna happen? Is when Daniela goes on the chat board and then they're talking. People are talking shit on the Rambo Jasons. And they're like, what are we gonna do? Like, someone's got to protect the family. And someone comments and says, "What are you gonna call an escort of F-16s?" All right, wise guy, like shut up, first of all. But this using that as a segue into OG Jason's defense of the family is just the fucking fireplace poker and also just going outside again when he doesn't need to leave the house.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
completely giving up the high ground, the advantageous position. So now he's just completely on the back foot. And I have this just the Rambos invade. So
The Rambos invade. I
I'm
love
here
that.
with everything. I think this is everything up until like gatekeeping Jason's where they actually like go
Yeah.
to the box because that probably deserves its own small conversation. But
Yeah.
everything we've got Jason's dying, we've got fights over shotguns, we've got Evil J redemption, we've got Charlie realizing that the supplies are there and all that stuff. So this was breakneck pace, especially compared to Jimmy, like you're saying, the rest of this episode. But it
Yes.
was
Yes.
all fantastic for me.
Mhm.
OG Jason deciding to go outside. Come on, man.
Unbelievable.
Come on.
Unbelievable.
That's how you know he's closer to OG Jason than Scar J or any of the other ones. He's not as hard and he hasn't been through as much shit. He doesn't know. He's just, a professor who's like, I have to defend my family, so I'm going to go outside and see what's going on out there with a freaking, basically a crowbar. I don't know. But yeah, it was wild. And again, it's still in my head. I'm like, how is this gonna end, man? How are they gonna do this? Like, obviously, when this is starting to happen, and as soon as she said I chose, everything you said, Luke, is just flown in. I'm like, all
Mhm.
right, maybe they are gonna go to another world and this and that and blah blah blah. But there's just a million other thoughts going through my head. Like with Evil J, with Scar J, I thought Evil J was gonna be like, dude, just let me leave. I'll go back to the box and I'll get the hell out of here. Like, just let me leave. Like that, I'm proud of him for that never coming up. You would think that with Evil J being selfish, I guess that's the character arc for this Evil J. Back to what I said about how he is still Jason deep down, but for the longest time when shit was in the fan with Danielle and Charlie, he was like, I'm thinking about leaving. Well, you'd
Mhm.
think that at this point he's like, I need to get out of here. But he knows how bad he screwed everything up. And here comes the redemption. And instead of taking a shit and rolling out, which he wouldn't have made it because they were all waiting. I mean, I guess they were waiting a little bit later, but
Wait, very quickly. Did you say taking his shit and rolling out or taking a shit and rolling out? Because I
I don't know,
thought you
man.
were
Did I say Jake or did I say Jason?
because I was like, I thought you were thinking like he's just gonna like upper deck all the toilets in the house and then just hit the box.
You're watching The Boys too much, man. Now
That's
talking about
so
him.
fair. That
But
is
dude,
so
I
fair.
said taking his shit and rolling,
Okay.
but I mean, if he has to take one, you might as well do it before you get in the box.
It's definitely smart to poop before you travel. It's
Oh yeah, you
definitely
don't
smart
you
to
don't know
poop before you
what's gonna
travel.
happen in the next
Yeah,
world. So
I have unfortunate experience with having to poop while traveling. And we'll leave it
yeah,
at
and
that.
that's not the
That's all I want to say for now.
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a couple of things. The action, because it's so action packed, there's not really a lot of comments I'm gonna add. You covered pretty much what happens, but some things that I thought were either funny or just worth bringing up. The first Jason that when he goes outside and sees the guy dying on the ground, he's like, "Am I gonna die?" That
Yeah.
was giving me, Jimmy. That was giving me Scream vibes from at the end of Scream 1 when he gets stabbed. He's like, "Bro, I'm
Yeah.
gonna die."
I'm,
Whatever.
I'm
He's like,
dying, man. He's
That's
like,
funny
hey,
That's
you
what I was
say
you
thinking the
that
whole
stabbed her.
time.
because I think like the house and him obviously going outside all felt like 90s horror movie. That the
Yeah.
setting felt
Dude,
like an
I
older
was gonna
scary
say
movie.
the first experience he gets with seeing another Jason run by the doorway, I was thinking like
Oh.
strangers or
Yeah.
like us, like that was creeping me out. But
Yeah.
then, of course, like they're all Jasons.
Yeah, and me being obsessed with Scream and you already bringing it up, one of the first times you see Scream in the intro with Drew Barrymore is she looks out of the corner of her eye and a Scream, one of the ones in the costume runs across the window.
Mhm.
And it reminded me
Yeah.
the same exact way. I mean, I was like,
Yeah.
Jesus, man, this is Rambo. Like, he's ready to go.
Yeah. That's actually perfect. That's
Another
really good.
thing I want to bring up is like in this grouping of scenes, OG Jason finally gets his wedding ring back. And
Yes.
I noticed this on my second watch through how he keeps the rubber band the entire time as well. So he's wearing
Yes.
both of them, which is pretty
He did
cool.
that for Kyle.
That is the completion of Redemption Jay's arc, which is the new Evil Jay's name. So Redemption
Oh,
Jay is what we're
baby.
gonna have to refer to him from here on out for the next 10
Redemp
minutes.
Jay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
But
I like that.
just this was the climax that we thought we were gonna get. I thought ScarJ was gonna be the one that was trying to actually like impersonate him, but it ended up just being another Rambo. Because
Yeah.
ScarJ's the one that gets hit by the car, right? When they're leaving.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
thought
that's how I
that
took it. Yep.
I thought the forehead scar just looked a little different when I watched the second time and purposely was looking for it, but I'm okay with he had the beanie, the jacket, so it
Yeah.
works for me. And I honestly, I would rather it be that way than his last scene being on his
Pepper
knees, pepper
sprayed and-
sprayed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the way I'm just gonna take it. I assume that's the way it should be taken as well.
By the way, Kyle, I just thought of this because of Scar J. The message board when they hit a message and they're like, "Did anyone else think of Kankakee?" Come
Yeah.
on, I love it.
That's my great intro to this question. Is Scar J the admin Jason?
If he's the first one there, maybe he created it.
I just don't know. That felt like they were maybe doing a nod to that. I just couldn't tell because there
Yeah.
is an admin Jason that was like highlighted
Yeah.
red and all
Mhm.
his 10 messages were in red, and that felt like bringing my eye to it, and then he's brought the Kankakee thing, and I was like, okay, but I don't think that matters. Just was curious.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the whole thing with the Rambo Jason coming in and saying, "Give me your clothes. Do you have a code word?" All that kind of stuff.
Smart guy.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm saying like, give him a fake code word, do whatever the hell you got to do, whatever. But like, again, I'm still at the point where I'm like, what is going to happen? Like, there's not that much time left in this episode. Is he gonna like actually pull off the thing that we were joking about when they're like, choose,
Mhm.
choose, I'm
Yeah.
Jason, I'm Jason. It's like,
Yeah.
But having OG Jason get close enough, take the gun, be a little badass, be a little Rambo himself, and then the gunshot, which I was gonna think it was Daniela, but then I was like,
100%.
yeah,
I thought it was Daniela.
yeah, and then again, it's more of the I chose you kind of thing. But Redemption J for the W apparently, and
yeah.
he
I
comes
like
in,
that name.
and here comes his redemption. Yeah,
From
Redemption
the
J.
parking lot too, because I did not anticipate this at all.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I didn't either.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
It was really good. I mean, he puts the gun down and everything, and I was like,
Yep.
oh wow, this is actually pretty crazy. And I loved Joel Edgerton's acting as OG Jason when he hears that it's Evil Jay. He hears it's the guy that kidnapped him, and he like starts gripping the shotgun like way harder, and his face like really changes. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
he wants to shoot his ass right now.
Yeah.
because you don't even notice it because there's so many Jasons going on. This is their first confrontation. Like that, it was
Yeah.
such an important moment. And like he already got the shit kicked out of him, like beyond belief, which was great. He knows all of his mistakes, which was great. So we got to see all the terribleness happen and the payoff happen to Evil Jay, so that it worked out so much. It was just such a satisfying moment in this series of the buildup is that when he evolves into Redemption Jay and like actually helps them from his heart and like gives them the keys and like says like go do this. It was just it's chef's kiss, man. It was so good.
It'd be funny if the soundtrack of him putting the gun down was like the sound that plays when your Pokemon starts to evolve.
And he's evolving. Yeah.
That would have been a deep cut. But I love it. Charlie steps up and pops him.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he really quick slicked his hair back and he just threw the freaking right
That
hook,
was
man.
slick back C for sure.
Been through
So-
some shit, Charlie.
Yeah.
And back to your point, Luke, when it comes to the scenario where he grips the gun and he doesn't shoot, Daniela and Charlie are right there. And again, it cements the fact that our OG Jason wouldn't have taken the shot, right? If he just destroys Evil Jay right there.
God,
Yeah.
Maybe Daniela says like, yeah, he deserved it or something, but still, you're going to freak out your son. You're going to freak out your wife. They're going to say, what kind of husband can just blow a guy's head off with a shotgun? It's just another thing that's like, okay, this is our husband. It sucks. Evil J sucks, but, he's trying to help us, and he got beat up enough. Just let's get out of here.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, back to the ScarJ. This is the last thing I'll say before we probably talk about the supplies that Evil J left them. How do we feel about ScarJ's ending just getting hit with the car? Just
it
curious.
makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like it's all you can do.
Yeah.
Like he didn't really deserve like more fleshed out material just because they were trying to get that point across that there's so many of them. And then we keep joking about the Rambos, but there's so many other Jasons that are exactly like ScarJ that as the episode went on, he doesn't really deserve the spotlight. Like Evil J and OG Jason do, and everybody else is a plot device, in my opinion. So I think it was fine.
Yeah. I just want to reiterate that I loved the role reversal, almost like you highlighted at the start, Luke, of ScarJ then becoming, okay, this is actually the main obstacle to us at this point, which is something that I would not have expected.
Right.
For sure. We knew he was dangerous episode 8, and we might have talked about it a little bit.
Did. You said he was a wild card and he had the gun and it was going to be a problem.
Yeah, of maybe it'll, like, if it comes down to just the two of them type of deal, but I didn't expect it to be like this, which was a good surprise. So last little thing to highlight here is just the culmination, the actual level of redemption that we get from Evil J. It's not just that he comes and gives them the car. He packed them a damn bag, and it's the bag that you would want.
Yes.
They got all the ampules. They got Max's ashes, which was really shocking and thoughtful, especially because we just talked about how he didn't remember the remembrance tree stuff, obviously, because he didn't know the remembrance tree stuff. And then we have the voice message on the phone, which I thought was a really, really nice touch. A great way to it didn't really end the episode technically, but just wrap up that arc of it all was just beautiful for me.
Yeah, the acknowledgement of all the regrets, that just growth. Like that was a good moment for Evil J as a character.
Back to what we were saying about how their relationship is going to be much stronger. I don't have the quote, and I don't know if you have it written down, Kyle, but the voice memo beautifully says, you guys have been through some shit, so you're stronger now. And whatever it is, it was a great quote, and it's the evolution to Redemption J. He's still Evil J, but it's the Redemption J where, for the 1,000th time, he still is a Jason, and it is deep down. He can finally see the errors of his ways. I mean, we called him selfish the entire season, and he is, but finally, he didn't choose to leave himself. He chose to give OGJ his life back, which, I mean, not that great job, Evil J, but still, like, it's a great ending for Redemption J.
Yeah. And just the one line that I had written down. I'm sorry, Jimmy, I didn't write down the line that you wanted to quote.
That's
good enough. Wasn't good enough for you to write down.
Yeah.
I
don't write that down here. Kyle would have got that one.
Whatever.
I trust you to write down the lines.
I liked his characterization of allowing space in your life for someone else's needs and dreams. And then he has that moment of introspection where he's like, I was afraid to risk love. And that's what it comes down to. And I just like that thread being something that was woven throughout the entire season, as this is the main difference between these guys. We know there's physical differences and their accomplishments in life are different and all that type of stuff. But what it really boils down to is that our guy, OG Jason, is just a family man. He's just a wife guy. He understands what it means to be in a long-term committed relationship. And that was the thing.
I think we're good on those conversations. I'm ready to take it to the box.
Yeah.
Jimmy, you got any other comments?
No, I'm good. Let's take it to the box, baby.
Take it to the corner, Dirty J. No? Okay. So
I don't, I don't think we talk about him anymore.
Yeah. This is going to ruin the tour. Okay, so gatekeeping Jasons is what I have here. This was shocking, man. I didn't expect all of them.
Yes,
it makes so much sense. Like, after I saw it, I'm like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Why would they not camp by the box? But when they walked down the steps, I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
The entire time when they're going to this box, I was like, how are they not saying that they're going to be walking into not a trap by Evil J, but just a trap, right? How are they not expecting Rambos or somebody else to be there ready to throw down? So the fact that they're going down the stairs, and I'm like, dude, if this is going to be an empty room, I didn't think there was going to be this, and I didn't think it was going to be anything like this scene. I just was hoping that there was going to be Jason's there.
Mm-hmm.
And when they finally show it, I was like, oh my gosh. And again, for the millionth time, I was like, what is happening? Like, what is going to happen? But it's perfect. It really is perfect. They have all these Jasons who are OGJ. It's our boy, OGJ, just different scenarios. Kyle, you said it in a prior episode. They all have the same past, but they have different futures, right? Daniela chose a Jason. Technically, it really doesn't matter which Jason she chose, but she chose a Jason. Once she says she chose a Jason, all of the other Jasons rationalize everything and truly care about their wife and their son. So the rationalization is if she makes a decision, we lose. We can't win because if we take them by force, they're not going to love us. There's
Right.
no way to ever win again. The game is over, if you want to call it that. So you have to sacrifice your happiness, all those Jasons who are our OGJ. They're all our OGJ who we love. And that's the whole point of what you were saying, Luke, where it's like, why do we care about the guy? Well, we ride and we die with him. Rubber band man, Kyle, OGJ, to the day I die. That's the only thing. That's the only connection we have. But technically, they're all the same guy, and they're all sacrificing their happiness, the love that they have for Danielle and Charlie. They know that they will never see them again, but they will do it because they are our OGJ, and they want to keep their wife and their son safe. Now, some of them don't, but most of them do.
Right. And who nominated spokesperson Jason? Because that was crazy that he just gets to talk and he's like the leader. Like he's like,
So
let him
curious about
pass. Oh,
Yeah,
that was so
very
funny.
curious
And
about that.
another insanely crazy thing that's just an issue with it being a TV show is when they're walking down the steps, Jason doesn't see any of them and he like turns the corner and then Daniela's like, whoa, wait, and like looks down. You can clear
Yeah.
like there's no way Jason was
you
walking
would
down
be able
those
to see it.
steps. Yeah. It was just because of where the camera was that they made that. That was just a weird
But
dumb moment that I
it's
thought.
it's all for the cinematography. It's all for the
Yeah.
oh shit, and you got to do it that way. But yeah, I mean, you know what it is. That's the stairs going in the spiral-ish kind of way. You should be able to see down and be like, there are 5 million Jasons down there. Maybe we should go back upstairs.
Yeah. I was in the mindset where each of these Jasons at least deserved a quick little hug from Daniela and
Yeah,
Charlie.
right.
'Cause come on, like the best they get is maybe eye contact for somebody you just traveled the multiverse to get back to, and it's not their fault they weren't picked for the most part. And it's just funny, like you get a couple of Daniela's and
Yeah.
Charlie's like whispers
Yeah.
as they're walking away. And I was actually getting a little sad. I'm like, these
Yeah,
guys
you
are
should.
never going to see their family again. What are they going to do? They probably don't have access to amps either, and they're going to
Yeah.
just be, or is cops are just going to come to this place and start arresting all these dudes? Like, what is going to happen here? What's the end game? They could do if they ever do a second season. I need like a just what's going on in the OG universe kind of clips of just what the hell happened to
Yeah.
the ramifications of this scene. But it was well done, and it would have felt cheap if something like this didn't happen before they got to the box. So I'm really happy that they explored what would realistically happen. Maybe they could have thrown in a Rambo or two that like really caused a problem, but they had a guy out
Yeah.
have an outburst and all that's fine. So I don't have anything to complain about it. This was what I kind of predicted was going to happen last podcast. I thought that their only chance at happiness was leaving this universe that is messy as hell now. So the fact that it went that way, it felt satisfying. And like we had these conversations, we had these moments with the other Jasons. It was just a win for me. So yeah, I got nothing else to add there. It's just cue sad music, which like Kyle said, there's always that music that comes and then the epilogue plays of all the other scenes.
There's a take there probably that this is the real evil Danielle. She couldn't Daniela rather. She couldn't even give these guys she couldn't blow them a kiss. There was no
Yeah, right.
there's no
She couldn't even give 'em,
crowd
like, a
wave.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
individual.
finger guns, nothing. It was just like, okay, these guys are weird. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Type of deal. So yeah, that was a complete rejection of the guys, I guess, that were there to protect her. I don't know. It is what it is. I think there was it's tough what you're saying, Luke, with like what's the aftermath of these things, and maybe we'll do all these epilogue shots before we talk about that, because we have these grouping of scenes here where we have Ryan developing Lavender Fairy, it looks like, and he meets with Amanda, which I don't know if I still understand the exact quote there. We have evil
Agreed.
Blair is leaving her hidey hole. We have Dawn, who looks longingly at the fingers that she lost, and she's alone at Velocity, which I thought was funny that they threw that in there. We have OG Layton looking like a sci-fi legend.
He's a druggie though. He's literally just like going in between his.
Well, he's a pro at this point.
His toes are taken up apparently.
Yeah. So the other ones, I think, beyond the Amanda and I almost said Rachel, the Amanda and Ryan one are just kind of like cool shots. Don't know if there's really much more analysis involved in them, but the Amanda and Ryan one, I just have a question of, I don't know you, but I've been looking for you, he says.
Yes.
How would he know to look for her? I'm very curious of what your thoughts are on that.
My note is not sure why he's been looking for her.
Yeah. I just me and Asia looked at each other and we're like, why? What does that mean? What do you think? And we were both like, I have no idea.
Yeah. So Luke, another pat on the back, some bitch. But yeah, I thought the same exact thing. They've never met before. They obviously never met in their OG world. She was, I mean, I can't say that for sure, but we never saw them on screen meet as a therapist and our OG Ryan. So yeah, I do not know why he was looking for her. It is the whole, oh, that's kind of nice kind of thing, which I'm allowing it to be there. It's an epilogue thing, like you said, Luke. I don't need any more dark matter. I think it's perfect. I think we have a single season of television that does not need any more just because, like you said, Luke, yes, you can give me a second season and I may love it. But if I don't, then you just ruined pretty much an almost perfect season. And giving me a quick epilogue of, it's almost like saying, fan service. It's just, you're not going to ruin my thoughts of a season that's been pretty much like flawless writing by making me question why OG Ryan is saying I'm looking for Daniela or I'm looking for Amanda. If you just want to give a little fan service for one of the last scenes of your show, I don't mind that. You're not going to ruin anything by that. But yes, I don't really understand it.
I don't have anything to add for that specific piece of it, like the Ryan thing. Maybe it's a seed plant for a possibility of season 2. Like that's the only thing I could really think about. Because if anything, Amanda should have been the one looking for Ryan because she knows Ryan from the evil universe and she knows he has the ability to create Lavender Fairy. But then that would have ruined her ending of being happy. Like, why would she be seeking him out if she's going to jump back in the box? Like that wouldn't have worked. So it's almost like caught between a rock and a hard place where I don't think they should have just not had the dialogue at all, and it would have been better.
Yeah. So my first question, if Kyle didn't do it, and he did, so I'm glad we all agree there. My question was going to be, and it wasn't as big of a deal, I thought Amanda said she was rolling out. Now, this could be the next day, a day later, not a big deal, where she's still making her decisions, but I thought she said she was going to Seattle where the missing Amanda was, so that she could be...
Yeah, I guess, yeah, and you're assuming that this takes place in Chicago.
And yes, and she has a friend, and I'm assuming it takes place in Chicago because what? Yeah. Did Ryan really just go to the same world and then move to Seattle with Amanda?
Yeah. By he would have had to get a passport because it was going to Seattle would be going to a new country. Yeah, that's a good point. My only thought could be that he is engaging in this consciousness level research, and that maybe she has found a niche of like being a psychologist again and doing work on that type of thing, and he knows of her through her work. And it's like we take it as I've been looking for you, like we know that they should have this level of connection type of deal, but for him it could just be like I've been looking for you because you're like the last piece of the puzzle to me figuring out how to make Lavender Fairy. He has no concept of her having an involvement in any of his other lives.
Yeah
type of thing.
Yeah,
that's the only way I could think of, like trying to convince myself that it makes sense, because without that, I don't understand it.
I think we brought up here and there randomly throughout the season how it would be cool if it could be figured out or known if you were like out of place in the wrong world or something. Like you give off a different signature,
like your atoms are
some way. And obviously he's a scientist, and not that he should know to look for that. I don't think that's the answer either, but I just think that would be cool. A cool concept where, you're not, it's like, like a blood transfusion or something where they do in movies where it's like, it's anything, a virus, blood transfusion where you're putting it in, but it doesn't fit. It's not the right thing. You're supposed to be in your other world, but you're in this world.
There's plenty. This is going to be one of the first questions that we give him. Like, what was the deal with that line?
There's plenty of conversations that I mean, if you really want to do season 2, it would be cool. You could say like,
Oh, are you convincing yourself now?
no, I'm just saying, like, you could say that like a plot line could be that you actually can't stay in another world for too long
Mm,
without it causing problems for you eventually. But we know
yeah.
that Jason was there for a long, Evil Jay was there for a long time. So whatever.
And
But
Blair too. Blair was in the B world for a while.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was the one thing. I feel like that's an okay. It's a pass because we haven't really had anything else that we had to question this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
And if you want to do it for fan service, do it for fan service in the
Yeah.
epilogue. That's fine. But I think Luke, you said I think it would have actually been pretty damn good if they just didn't say the
Yes.
line.
Yeah.
It
If you
could have just been
had them,
Ryan showing up and seeing Amanda, and like everything else can just be
oh yeah,
logically just rationalized and implied for
it,
whatever
it
you
can.
want to happen.
All you have to do is have them accidentally bump into each other with no lines, and we'd be like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You
That's
know.
and that's exactly what it would have been. We would have been like, that was crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give our boy
Yeah.
some more screen time. OG
Yeah.
Ryan's back.
My like overarching take, I think, on the ending is I think us as individuals, the three of us, people that follow the content, aka the listeners and the watchers, are people that are more inclined to want all of the details. We're breaking everything down. We're
Oh
looking
yeah,
for clues. We're drafting theories and all that type of stuff. And it was kind of nice, I think, that things were left fairly open ended about stuff. Like when Asia and I were watching, and she was upset that we didn't get to see the world that OG
They ended up
Jason,
in. Yeah.
Daniela, and Charlie went to.
right.
A lot of things like Blair, evil Blair, just kind of we know she went into the box, didn't work out. OG Layton, we just to see that he's kind of enjoying himself. But there's a lot of things. What happens with all the Jasons in the world? The LBJ is still sitting on the toilet at the University of Chicago Library. Like all of these things are kind of
Mhm.
happening, and I just don't think we needed it. I don't. It
No.
just wasn't necessary for me to feel better. I think usually I'm someone that like I love a nice epilogue. I love getting like the check in on where everyone was, and these small scenes were enough for me. I didn't need the level of detail about every little thing, and that felt good. I was like, oh, I'm genuinely a little surprised that I feel so content with this ending because typically I'm someone that wants all of it. I want all the little details. I want to see how all the consequences have been resolved.
Very
Yeah.
well said. Like the epilogue scenes, you guys covered the main one. Like the one I wanted to talk about the most was the Amanda and Ryan thing, but there's nothing to add there. Like Leighton, that was just such a cool idea. We were worried that he just got sent into the box, probably just died and fucked off
Yeah.
because Evil Jay didn't prepare him enough. But he's probably has the
Yeah.
most interesting story of the
Yeah.
entire show. Like
Give
if we
him
were
a
to actually
show.
follow him, like so that was just cool to see. One of my favorite moments, which I kind of just like the more I think about it, I love is after the family decides what world they're going to go to. They open the door, it turns into the box, they go in and they close it, and then it turns back into the corridor because nothing is observing it. And I thought that was just a really cool moment. Doesn't need to be talked about more than that. It was just a very good way to kind of just phase out and just end the show, because this show for me at least a 9.5 out of 10. I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
like, I think it was it's so hard to compare because we also just did Shogun as well, which another supposed to be one season show that could turn into more. And the boys, like there's just this was such a good year for TV. Like Invincible was earlier this year as well. Dark Matter is definitely in the top 3 for me, like of just of 2024, and I don't see it really getting dethroned in the second half of this year.
I agree. And I guess we can quickly talk about, I know we're getting a little bit long on the pod, but I guess we could quickly talk about, since it's left open ended, what did you guys think when I kind of thought that they opened the door and they were going to show up at Amanda and Ryan's world. Now,
That would have been
obviously,
wild.
yeah, now that's great for Ryan, not so great for Amanda because OGJ is going to show up and be like, Amanda, I miss you, girl. Here's my wife. Here's my son. How you
Yeah,
doing?
look how happy I am with my
Yeah.
beautiful wife. Isn't
I
it great?
did it. I freaking
Yeah.
did it. So that wouldn't be great, but again, it's the fan service kind of thing. And like you said, it's open ended. You can think what you want to think. And
Mhm.
I kind of thought it would be cool. You open the door, you don't see anything except the glowing light. You kind of see a skyscraper-ish shadow. And I was like,
Interesting.
is it?
Almost took it negatively at first. I felt like it was like it almost came like a burned out world, and they took the
Whoa,
step into it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not. I just thought there was like particles in the air. It was like the orange glow, and I didn't take that as like a super
Valhalla, like in
healthy.
Last Kingdom.
Yeah.
When
I mean,
Uhtred
okay.
opens his door.
Yeah, no, Charlie's a fucking man. He's like, all right, we're going to Valhalla, guys.
He's
That's
like,
the world I'm thinking
he
of
slicks
right
his
now.
hair back and he's like, let's do this thing.
I
But
don't
yeah,
think there's any chance that it was the Ryan and Amanda world because for two reasons. Like one being it would take all of the importance out of Ryan and Amanda meeting each other saying, I've been looking for you like away because if Jason is there, he'll just eventually find Jason. I don't know. I think like that's definitely off the table. And also being the fact that we know for a fact that there is a Jason in the empathy world that is like the insurance
Yeah.
salesman, right? So that would be messy. He can't just kind of drop and place them in like their own life. So I'm just in my head canon, they went to a peaceful world that they can fit in without there being any legal ramifications. And I'm just leaving it at that until we hear more from Blake.
Yeah. And okay. And I took them letting Charlie choose as like a symbolism of what being a parent is. And they were, for their idea was that as long as we're together as a family, it'll be okay. And like, we should let Charlie choose. Like we've put him through this traumatic experience and all that type of stuff. But now that we've been talking about things and just reminded me of the Scar J quote from earlier in the episode where he's like, okay, well, he wouldn't choose, him being Jason wouldn't choose where they go because it would be too predictable and all the Jasons would know. And we know Daniela well enough that they wouldn't let Daniela pick. So they must have let Charlie pick where the hiding spot was. And maybe that was also the mindset behind letting him pick a world because just in case
somebody chases them.
Yeah, there's someone chasing them that you got to let Charlie pick. And can they think like 16-year-old Charlie? Probably not.
And if there's a season 2, that somebody will be chasing them. Like that will be a plot point. So
yeah.
So is that going to be the end of it?
My last question.
Parting
My
shot.
last question. Parting shot.
Okay.
Sitting on the beach. Okay. It's OG Jason and Daniela, and they're talking, and he says, I had some thoughts, and he says, I want to ask your opinion. When she says, did you meet another Daniela? He says, was she happy? All that kind of stuff. He's like, hey, if I would have hit that, is it cheating? Would you be mad at me?
Yeah.
It was implying a little bit, and we know that it basically was Evil J sexually assaulting Daniela.
Yes.
In that, so I would be very curious what her take would be on him. I think she would be quite forgiving of the situation.
And the difference, obviously, is that Evil Daniela knows that it's OGJ.
That he's a different
it's not her
person.
Jason, and they were going to be.
But he knows it's not his Daniela.
Right. I mean, hey, we've had this conversation, and I just want to know what Daniela thinks about it. But
man, I miss Evil Daniela, dude. She was the best.
Yeah, she was the best.
So Jimmy implied it earlier. I think we're going to have another follow-up episode on the Dark Matter feed, hopefully talking with Blake. So this may be the end of the theory crafting, but if you guys have any questions, just keep throwing them at us and YouTube, hit us up on Discord or Twitter, anything, because we're going to have this conversation and I am beyond excited. Hopefully that we can take some of Blake's time and really just hash out some of these open-ended things, get his take on what season 2, if that's actually in his mind, like looks like. But this show has been a joy. We've had a great time. This is one of my favorite podcasts we've done in the 4 years we've been doing it. And I hope Apple TV keeps taking these sort of just not cookie cutter Netflix shows and just keep putting them out there because Apple's on the rise. Like they are just cranking out good content. And then anything that you guys are seeing out there sci-fi wise that's going underrated or under the radar, like that you think is worth our time for covering, that's coming up, definitely hit us up because this was one of the biggest surprises of podcast history for us. Like usually when we have a show that we're really excited about, we know months in advance and prepare and like all these things. This came out of left field. Kyle showed us the trailer one day. And it turned into being one of my favorite experiences of Bingetown. So this was amazing. Like I said, 9.5 out of 10. I could probably be convinced into 10 out of 10 after talking to Blake and clearing a couple things up. But definitely one of my favorite limited series of all time. And I emphasize limited series. We'll revisit that conversation if it turns into a multi-season thing. Same thing as Shogun. I'm comparing the two just because it's so easy. But yeah, such a great show. Good time, boys. Kyle, hit us with your parting shot.
My parting shot is, what he said. Now, I just am so pleasantly surprised at how good the show was, how much fun we had doing the podcast. There's really nothing better than the result of this. That's everything we could have ever asked for. The support was incredible. all the YouTube comments. So many of them make us laugh. So many of them introduced new theories to us, all of the stuff in the Discord. And it was so fun to see the conversation also happen without us, like our videos just creating a place where other people can talk. You know, people are just having conversations with each other. It just happens to take place in our comment section. And that's just like a wonderful thing. It's very surreal and it's just very fun. And yeah, if I want to rate it out of 10, I would go maybe like 9.5. 10 out of 10 is probably tough. For me right now, this is the best show I've seen this year. Easy. House of the Dragon. I have the softest of soft spots in my heart for the Thrones universe. So I'm pretty confident that'll probably end the year as one, no matter what happens. But this will probably be two. I would be shocked if anything else. I think with combination of the podcast helps so much of the level of enjoyment. But just this was one of the best experiences we've ever had. It was just a blast.
Agreed.
It really was. And if you want to continue those conversations, jump on our Discord. Seriously.
Always the professional.
Always a professional. I was literally re-listening to some of the House of the Dragon stuff, and I just love Kyle's like, all right, guys, check us out here. But I think this is all the stuff Jimmy wanted me to say.
Just checking the boxes for the boss, man.
Yep. But guys, seriously though, I said it in the intro. I got my parting shots out in the intro, but I would say I agree that I would give about a 9.5 out of 10. It really has been a phenomenal year for television, and we're only halfway through. Shogun, starting the year, Invincible, all that kind of stuff. But
on the spot, which one do you like better?
Dark Matter.
I would say
easy.
The Dark Matter ride was definitely the more enjoyable of the two. But going back and rewatching, it's probably easier to still keep that Shogun enjoyment up there because it's a different type of show where you're not getting the reveals. But definitely the ride of Dark Matter wins.
So I said Dark Matter so quickly, and I think it's easy for me to say Dark Matter just because sci-fi and this kind of show is my jam. And it's usually going to win out over something as phenomenal as Shogun. Like, it was great freaking show, and they probably rated the same, but I'm gonna go Dark Matter because of the pod, because of the genre. I loved it. I mean, you already talked about it for a second, Luke. Apple TV, man, they're just taking over sci-fi, just not just TV in general, but sci-fi. I mean, we're talking about Severance, Silo, Dark Matter. There's plenty of others, but those three are like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, we need that Severance season 2 release date. We don't have it yet.
I think that's supposed to be the end of this year, but I could be wrong about that if it didn't get delayed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. Yeah, that's it. So if you like what you heard, check us out at bingetowntv.com. And now it's more important than ever. Find us on the Bingetown TV feed. Type that in to your favorite podcast app, or go to bingetowntv.com/podcast. That way you can go to our main feed and just stay friends with us forever because, again, you guys have been freaking awesome, and we don't want to lose any of you. That's the kind of sad thing about these separate feeds. You know, we get all these new friends, and then sometimes they don't move on to the next one just because they don't even know it exists. So, you know, sometimes you skip the intro and the outro. But, hey, don't skip this outro. Hopefully you're listening right now.
They're already gone.
Hopefully you're listening right now. But anyway, check us out, bingetowntv.com/podcast. All of your favorite apps, or any of your favorite apps, you can click on that, hit that subscribe button. Again, if you're following us on YouTube, thank you for following. Thank you for liking. Thank you for commenting. Keep coming with us. We have literally the boys, House of the Dragon, the Bear, all coming or already ongoing. So I guess that's it, guys. And I'm a little upset, but
yeah. And if you want to sing out, sing out. And if you want to be free, be free. That was a great way to end the episode. I love that. All right.
Yes. All right,
I meant the TV episode, not the podcast episode. But I wasn't like, yeah, dude, I was killing that. But also, maybe both are true. Both are true.
That's very true. And I'm just gonna end it right here. Bye. Thank you so much for listening.